Hello everyone, welcome to 2020 and my journey into motorsport. My name's Alex Baldwin, and this year I'm going to bring you on my journey of getting into my first season of motorsport. So every week hopefully we're going to be bringing you a bit of a documentary, hopefully about 10 to 20 minutes long, documenting what goes on in the sort of life of an amateur racing driver. So last year we did this little documentary for our university project that sort of scraped the surface of what it's like to sort of compete in amateur motorsport. But this year, I'm going to be doing hopefully 8 to 10 events, fingers crossed, and get a bit more of an idea about the whole grand scheme of things, not just hopping into a car and racing, what actually goes on behind the scenes. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy this, and I'll explain a little bit more about it in this video today. So for this year we've got a new camera. We're going to hopefully have John a lot of the rounds helping me out with all of the filming, so that's going to be hopefully quite exciting. And over the last couple of weeks since the start of January, sort of easing ourselves into this sort of pre-season of motorsport. So we've got up to a couple of things. Firstly, about 2 weeks ago now, myself, John behind the camera, and a few other people went karting for the first time of the year. So we normally do like a mini championship each year, but this time we've condensed it into pre-season to help myself out and a couple of other people in the championship sort of get involved. So the first 2 rounds took place, first of which was at Filching Manor, and I'll send to myself now in the past, as I did do a little bit of an introduction back there. But yeah, it was a good time at Filching Manor to start off the year. So for this year we've got 5 rounds, and they're all taking part in January and February, so quite action packed, and 2 today, 1 here at Filching and 1 later somewhere in Brighton indoors, so it's going to be quite a exciting one. But yeah, it's quite cold out today, so this is sort of counting as a bit of a pre-season testing, getting into a racing vehicle, I guess, for the first time of the year. So yeah, I guess you sort of love motorsport when 5 days into the year you want to get in a go-kart, and we're doing probably about an hour and a half in a kart today, so yeah, quite a lot's going on. But yeah, round 1, hopefully we're going to have a good time, hopefully it's going to be good fun, and let's go. So here we are in the car, ready for the first round of this little championship held between myself, friends and family, and it's time to get out there and go and qualify. As you can hear, not too confident in the way the kart's possibly going to handle. And here we are out on track. This is only a qualifying session, but if you go to our website you'll be able to see that points are scored for the faster time in qualifying, a little bit like in some racing series around the world. Of course not Formula 1, but nonetheless I was just trying to bang in a good lap time early on. Now I realise this isn't super competitive, this is only supposed to be a bit of fun, but for me I do try and give it my all, and I am competitive, so of course I want to do the best I possibly can. So I'd already had a half spin in this session, just trying to warm up the car a little bit, and you can see Tom in front of me is most likely going to be my main championship rival, so seeing if I can beat him in the qualifying and the race is going to be very important, because I know he is the person to beat in this championship. He's come very close in the past to winning the championship. So I'm looking around, making sure no one's around me, but you can see at the end of the session here we're right up behind Tom. He did get stuck up behind one of the drivers making their debut in this little championship here. My cousins and my cousin's father, that's their first time in this little series, and you can hear I'm saying it's so cold. I'm like, what's going on? It's not normally this freezing. Nonetheless, time for race 1. So we look to the lights and they go out, and away we go for the first race of 2020. And I get a good enough start here. It wasn't great. Tom always does get slightly better starts than me, and then we're down to the first corner and managed to keep the lead on the inside. The weird thing at Filching Manor is that the inside line, the pole position spot, sometimes isn't the best place to start because you've got more of an uphill start. Whereas second, maybe not so much second, but third and fourth have a bit more of a sort of rolling downhill before they go uphill. As we got to the top hairpin here, I'm going to lap someone down the inside here, quite late on the brakes. I'm sort of trying to make sure I don't make any too big, audacious moves because I didn't want to end up spinning, but thankfully it was a relatively easy race there. Managed to pull out a nice lap in the early stages and bring home the win. I'm saying to John here, he had a good race actually, John. I probably mentioned it already, good person behind the camera. But I was saying to him, he needs to go and fly down the inside at turn 1, and a very quick lights out and away we go for race number 2. I was sort of having a quick check there. You can see Tom's car just alongside, then he tucks in behind me here as we go down to the first corner. Braking into turn 1 on lap 1 is always hard because you're always worried that someone's going to punt you up the rear and sort of push you out wide, because of course it all does sort of concertina up there through the first corner. But thankfully no contact and we keep the lead for now. There's 7 of us out there today, but 6 of us are very similar on pace. Similar enough that in the reverse grid later on that anybody could win. Jake, who we've seen in the championship before, doesn't do too badly at the slower tracks, but this is sort of quite a quick track and the braking zones and so on are quite particular. You need to be very on the limit to get those correct, and we're coming up to lap Jake here. And he takes a bit of time to warm up Jake in go-karting. By the end of the day, his lap times are actually very, very good, considering he doesn't do much karting. But early on in these first couple of races, he was struggling a little bit. Now, I dive down the inside there. Not normally an overtaking opportunity because it is very bumpy down there. But we managed to get that one done and slide it through the last corner there and up to the start-finish line. And there's the checker flag out, and race number 2 is mine. So these are only short races, only 5 minutes long. But nonetheless, they sort of give you all the adrenaline and all that rush in a short amount of time, and it gives us the opportunity to do more races rather than just one long one. So there we are, 2 out of 2 and ready for race number 3. And the lights are out and away we go. I don't know why I took my hand off the wheel there. Nonetheless, I look around and I'm like, what's happening here? Tom's actually had a very bad start, and we'll look at a replay from his point of view in a second here, because that's something good about this championship. We do have GoPros on a lot of the drivers, which means lots of action can be captured. This is it from his point of view. You can see myself on the right hand side, and he somewhat misses the start. So John gets a good start. He doesn't normally get good starts, but then Chris gets a great start. It sort of all squeezes up there into the first corner. Chris goes from, I think, 5th to 2nd. Great move, but then gets a bit sideways, a half spin in the first corner, and contact with Tom really disrupts him. But now on board with Tom once again later on. You can see I'm sort of putting out a lead, but Tom is really putting the pressure here on John, trying to get past him. Now I'm not sure what happens here, because John sort of leaves the gap down the inside. I think he thought Tom was already down the inside. Nonetheless, Tom did manage to fight his way through from 4th in the first couple of meters of this race, all the way back up to 2nd. Now I'm side by side with Jake here, up to the top corner. The thing is, he's slightly faster to be in a straight line, so I didn't want to be crazy, because I didn't think he'd see me down the inside if I'd gone for that one, because he was pulling away towards the end of the straight. Now, maybe looking back at this in hindsight, I should have just gone for that, because now I'm going to get held up behind Jake for a whole lap, and he was lapping about 3 seconds a lap slower than us in these earlier races. Actually, by this time he was probably lapping a little bit less off the pace, but you can see I spent a whole lap behind him. You can't really overtake in the middle sector here unless you really force the error. So see, once again in the straight, I can't really pull out because he's just quicker in a straight line, but this time I have to go for the late move down the inside and just hope that he sees me. But that was a lap spent behind Jake. Maybe I didn't need to, but thankfully I had enough of a lead thanks to lap 1 dramas for the checker flag to come out. And you can see actually it was quite close at the line. John was keeping up with Tom right at the end, but he didn't quite manage to do it. But last race of the day, this is always the most exciting one. This is a reverse grid, and you can see I'm in a bit of a rush. I haven't even put my gloves on here, so I'm sort of driving out with one glove sort of half on and then trying to get the other one on. You can see there's a bit of a dampness in the pit lane, which means there is wet on the tyres early on. So here's the reverse grid, 7 of us. So you can see there on the left hand side, that's Tom. Directly in front of us is John, finishing 4th in that last race and starting 5th in this one, or sorry, 4th in this one again. Sorry, it's my dad. You can see both of them actually don't get too bad a starts here. John actually doesn't get a particularly good one. My dad does. And you can see up to the first corner, Tom gets a good run. He's going down the inside. I'm on the outside. Into the first corner, it's Jake that's got slightly bogged down here. He's dropped from pole down to 4th already. And I was wondering what's happening here. Trying to go on the outside of Jake, and there's a little bit of contact there. I wasn't expecting Jake to go so severely to the right hand side, but he probably didn't see me there. But I get past there without too much hassle. Now you can see Tom is now in front of me. Can he pull away? Can he win this race? So skipping ahead a lap later, we're now all in the queue for the lead of this race up to the top hairpin. Chris is battling away with Greg, and I think Greg goes for a little bit of a half spin here. Not even that, just a bit sideways, but that means that myself and Tom both get through now in 2nd and 3rd place. Now I think I do have the pace advantage over Tom here today, but it sometimes doesn't mean much, because it's very hard to overtake around here, especially when you're so similarly paced in a straight line. Now, Tom has got down the inside of Chris, a nice bold move there down the inside and got him up into the leader's race, and I follow Tom through and up to the braking zone at the top hairpin, and we just about managed to get through there, no issues whatsoever. So once again, I'm just trying to put the pressure on Tom here to try and make him make a mistake, but he's not really doing it, to be fair to him. He's had pressure in the past. He knows what it's like to lead a sort of, I was going to say a Grand Prix. He knows what it's like to lead a kart race, at least. So I fully expected Tom to win this one, really. I was really struggling to get away past. I did think I was quicker. A little bit of a mistake there in the braking zone here, trying to brake a little bit too late. Now on board with John, you can see he's had actually a really strong race, actually, considering he was starting at the back of the field as well. He's had a good comeback through the field. He's actually keeping up with us right at the front of this field. So really good stuff there from John, because he says it himself, he doesn't particularly think he does well at this track. I think he does enjoy this track, but I think he's always one to say that he struggles around here. So to see him in this position is definitely good, and it's nice to see, because whilst of course I do want to win, I want to have a nice battle for the win as well. Assuming the karts are all very similarly powered. So I keep trying, but Tom is just not giving up any gap whatsoever. I thought the best opportunity was down through here in this fast left-hander, but sometimes the driver in front doesn't see you. That could be a big accident. It's not really what you want to get involved in. And of course I was kind of thinking of our mini championship, and the checker flag's out nonetheless. These are short races and it went very quickly. I was thinking in the helmet, like, wow, that went really, really quickly. But a bit of a clap there for Tom. I was happy with my day. 3 wins and a 2nd place. And well done to Tom. And good stuff from him. But yeah, really enjoyable day. We'll start today at Filching. So there we are. That's the first karting session of the day and season done. It started pretty well. You probably saw, got 3 victories after getting pole, which was great. And then last race was just mad. I had John, who's the cameraman right now, right by me the whole race, and Tom just in front of me. And it was a great 3-way battle, actually. It's a shame it only lasted 5 minutes, but probably best for all of us that it didn't last any longer, because we've got karting in 4 hours time again. I didn't really plan this properly. It's going to be a hectic day, but yeah, that's Filching Manor's 1 round of the season done. So that's a nice way to sort of finish that off. But yeah, round 2 starts very shortly, so we'll see you there. Right, so karting number 2 of the day, as you can see, quite cold. We're indoors, we're at TeamSport Brighton. None of us have been here today. 7 of us out on track, and a few other randoms as well. So it's going to be pretty exciting. There's a bit of elevation changing in here, so yeah, a little bit tentative about this one. I guess take it easy in the first go of that, and hopefully have some fun. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So none of us had done much indoor karting before. I think I've done twice indoors before, 1 not for a very long time and 1 not in this country, so not much relevant experience. I think Tom has done 1 in the past, I think you remember him saying, or one of the people in here has done it once before. Nonetheless, it's very different. Obviously the slicker surface that you're driving on, meaning a lot more sliding, and also the general layout of the indoor tracks aren't quite as enjoyable, in my opinion, as outdoor tracks, just because they've got very limited space. So it's hard for them to have the high speed sort of nature of tracks like Lydd, Bayford Meadows, and even to an extent Filching Manor. They don't have those long straights that you can really sort of wring the neck out of the car. So I'm only going to give you a bit of a sort of highlights reel of a couple of the things that happened in this, because the footage is alright, but you can see it's quite grainy, it's quite dark, you can't really see too much, but hopefully it just gives you a general idea about what the track looks like. So this sort of session for our little championship nonetheless was split up into 3 sessions, 3 different time trials, and my aim was here to just try and do my best as possible. So the layout of the sessions was 3 15-minute sessions. There were 7 of us out there in our group, plus I think about 7 other people, 7 other randoms. So we lost Jake, but we gained Dom from my work, so that was great to have him in the championship for the first time. You can see him there in the red suit, so I'm giving a bit of a thumbs up. Well, I hope that's what I was giving him, and he's staying in front of me for now. But Unfortunately, my GoPro didn't record for the second session, but I got the first and the third sessions. Now, my best lap time did come in the third session, even though my sort of arms were absolutely dead by that point. I'm surprised my fastest time did come in that session because I was absolutely exhausted. But thankfully for me, I actually managed to, for at least our little championship at least, get fastest out of our group. Now, I think I finished 4th overall. I only finished behind people that had been here quite a lot, so it was actually quite nice to be not that far off people that have been here probably, I think, 10 or 12 times by the look of the amount of points or whatever they'd had. So it's good to see. I'm happy. I know there was more attempts to find, definitely, but nonetheless, so I did actually enjoy it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it could have been at indoor karting, but it definitely knackered me out. And yeah, by the end of the day I was very exhausted, but for our little championship at least I was happy that I managed to get 3 fastest times out of our group. So yeah, very happy at the end. So that first round at Filching, I think went quite well. I mean, I was happy with my performance. I think myself and Tom were always very close at Filching. We've both got a lot of experience there, but also in the last race, John behind the camera was very competitive as well. It got really close towards the end. It was, well, Tom leading, myself in second, and John right behind me in third. It was a great battle for that whole race. I was keeping my fingers crossed that John wasn't going to dive bomb me down the inside because I was keeping the door open quite a bit. But yeah, really exciting races, and that was a good start to the year. But on that same day, we decided to hurt ourselves even more and go karting for a second time in the day. And this time it was at TeamSport in Brighton, somewhere where none of us had been before, so it was a bit of a new experience. And yeah, indoor karting is very different to outdoor karting. Personally, I prefer being outdoors and karting that way, but it was a bit more, it was damaging of the body basically in that second one at TeamSport. It was really painful at the end of it. Lots of bruises, but I guess that's part of it. And yeah, I guess I had some good performances there as well in our little sort of championship. I guess I sort of just got used to it a bit quicker, but at the same time it was a track that really favoured you being lightweight. I think the heavier drivers were struggling a little bit in that one because the ups and downs in the track and the tight hairpins really were slowing them down. So I think once we get to round 3 it'll be a lot more level once again, and yeah, I'm excited to see how the championship plays out. So a week after karting, and whilst everyone was recovering, I went back up to Birmingham to Motorsport International to sort of tick off a couple of other things in pre-season. First of which was sort of getting a few pieces of equipment. One of those was a new suit, so I've got a plain black suit now, and I kind of wanted to keep the one I used for my first race sort of as it is because it's nice memories, but also I wanted to upgrade a bit because that suit was quite cheap and didn't really fit in the right areas, if you know what I mean. So I decided to buy a new one of those. I got a Sparko suit, which is nice, and it fits me a bit better, which is great. I also got a seat as well for the race car, which we'll speak about in a future video. But yeah, that was a Sparko seat as well, new for 2020 apparently, so hopefully that all works out. But it fitted really well on the day, better than some of the other names. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that in the car and seeing how that fits. So that's all good. And apart from that, I was speaking to a couple of racing clubs about doing stuff with them in sort of 2020. So it's getting there. Not everything's over the line yet, but I've got a very good idea about where I'll be racing in 2020, as well hopefully a couple of sponsors on board, which is really good as well, because I realised for my university documentary it's a small scale project, but for some of those sponsors to stay with me in 2020 and obviously help with my motorsport is really exciting. So I look forward to announcing all that in due course. As I said, it hasn't come over the line yet, but fingers crossed that does happen very soon. So yeah, exciting times at Autosport, some really good conversations, a couple of important pieces of equipment bought, and yeah, good times. And yeah, happy that those 2 weeks happened as they did. A lot of positive things for me, and I guess now we look to the next couple of weeks and what happened next. I decided to start this first episode with a nice backdrop of the countryside, but I'm sure not all of the ones will start this way, and I'm sure we'll run out of ideas quite soon. But nonetheless, we will be, in the next couple of weeks, going karting yet again. Next round is Bayford Meadows in our mini championship, so I'm really looking forward to that. It's a track I do quite enjoy, but we'll see about the conditions. It's quite late on in the day, and possibly it could be dark by the time we get there, so that could be interesting to say the least. So apart from that, a couple of other things to tick off. We're going to be collecting the car in February, most likely. It's still being built, so we'll see what happens, but hopefully mid-February, end of February, we'll get that, and I'll be able to show you on this channel. And lastly, I guess I've got to do a big thing, which is going and passing my trailer license. So that's something that I didn't have to do for last year because I wasn't sort of taking my own car to the circuit, but for 2020, of course, I'm going to be taking my own car to the circuit, so I need to get a trailer and a trailer license. So that's going to be something I complete over the next, hopefully, month or so. So that's it for the first part of this documentary. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next week for more. Thank you, bye.